Sunday, November 29th, 2020. This is all about your Benjamins and your weekly mixtape and weekend review video. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully it was safe and healthy and you enjoyed the time with your family if you were able to get together with them. And if not, hopefully you were able to at least FaceTime or Zoom with them to say hello virtually in what we're doing so much of this year. I think that next year we'll be back to the big family Thanksgivings all in person. We'll be annoyed with our family and ready to go back home and go back to the small Thanksgiving that we had this year. It's always going to trade back and forth. Whatever we can't have is what we want, and when we get that, we don't want it, we want the other. That's just the way things always tend to work out. But let's get to the headlines that may or may not be impacting your financial plan and portfolio. And I truly expected a light week in news and headlines in a short week with the holiday. But here we have 5 headlines to run through real quick. They shouldn't take too long, but let's get to them. So the first one is just talking about the transition beginning to slowly take place between President Trump and President-elect Biden. President Trump actually came out and said that the Electoral College supports the popular vote, that he would concede and leave the White House quietly. I don't think that we're done with this yet. I think there's still some more excitement to come from this whole thing with contesting the voting and everything going on. But it's good to see that there's a little bit of normalcy going on. Kind of baffles me that we're this far after the election without things moving at the normal speed and without a true concession from President Trump, if that's where it's going to go. And it's just kind of quiet, no big deal, kind of business as usual, life as usual, which I would have thought that this unknown that's still out there would have created more anxiety amongst the public, but it's relatively quiet, which I find very interesting. Who knows what that means? But as things begin to transition and they're sharing information moving forward, that leads us to the next article. And President-elect Biden announced that he would nominate Janet Yellen for the Treasury Secretary, which we are very familiar with Miss Yellen on the mixtape. Over time, over the last 5 years, her name has come up a number of times because she's held other positions that tie into the financial systems within the U.S. So if Miss Yellen were to accept, she would be the first woman to lead the Fed, and she'd be the first person to have held the Treasury, Central Bank, and White House Council of Economic Advisors. I didn't know that off the top of my head. I'm cheating and looking, but she would have held 3 very high positions with the first person to do that. So pretty cool to see that. Wall Street had no problems with that being announced, knowing her background, knowing what her views are on financial policy. So that was actually kind of a positive news headline that came out. But it's kind of cool to see that she would be the first woman to do that and hold those 3 positions. Next, let's go into the unemployment picture. We always touch on this and starting to see what we've talked about over time with the, knowing that things are going to be shut down and slowing back down and seeing those finally come into play. We're seeing the unemployment numbers tick back up a little bit. So last week, unemployment claims rose to 778,000. So still way below where we were, but we don't want to see those numbers trending back up for the long term. So we can have these little one-offs, or this is a couple weeks in a row, but these slow increases. But if we see things come back on, that'll be a good thing. So just something to monitor. Don't know if it's if it's telling us something that's coming down the road, but it's something we've talked about and something worth paying attention to. Another thing worth paying attention to is the companies out there that slowed paying dividends. So this next article talks about, during the pandemic, large corporations scaled back the dividends that they paid out to keep more cash on the balance sheet to get through. And we're starting to see some of those companies that were hoarding cash, as the Wall Street Journal said, begin to pay those dividends back out again, which is a positive sign that these bigger businesses, from their standpoint, what they're looking at, think that we have moved beyond the worst of the pandemic. Vaccine probably helps. Seeing that consumers have saved money, but they're also out there spending as well. What they're seeing is a positive to the point where they're comfortable taking some of that money off the balance sheet to pay out to their shareholders in the form of dividends. So it's a good sign. Does big business always get it right? No. Could they be doing this a little too early? Yes. Again, history is always going to tell us what these weekend review videos really are telling us. But for right now, that's a positive thing that I'm not sad to see. And I'm sure that some of those out there that are dividend investors are glad to see dividends coming back as well. And the final one, numbers are arbitrary, but the Dow broke through 30,000 for the first time ever, which is not as exciting this time around. Usually when those things happen all the traders on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange get real excited. You see the 30,000 hats, and we don't have that right now because the traders aren't down on the floor. 30,000 is actually a meaningless number in the grand scheme of things, but it is a benchmark, it is a number, it is an all-time high. And again, it goes back to some of the things we've talked about over the last few months of how weird it is right now between some parts of the U.S. and some parts of the economy and other areas. So we have the stock market, the Dow Jones at all-time highs, where we have unemployment ticking back up. So it just looks like two worlds out there for some people, and understandably why some people are frustrated because they are stuck and not being able to move forward, while the other side is seeing all-time highs in the stock market. So just interesting there, but that is a milestone that is worth noting. And in conclusion, talking about big businesses bringing back the dividends and people feeling stuck. Yesterday was Small Business Saturday. That's near and dear to our family's heart with my wife, Ange, having her small business, a boys' clothing store. Just wanted to encourage you that if you're watching this and you've made your list for the holidays, if any of those things on your list could be purchased at a small business, go support the small business. The big guys are going to be okay. During this time, they're going to come out of this much better than small business. A lot of small businesses will be going away and not coming back while the bigger players get bigger and stronger. So go out and support your local business. And even if there's something that's not on your list, maybe give them a look too, because maybe you'll find something that would be great for somebody on your list that you would have missed because you didn't go there. So go support small business. It's not just the restaurants. Support them as well, but support the stores as also. Help them get through this. We know a lot of small businesses in the area that are just getting by barely, and we want to see them succeed. So go out and support your small business. You're not just supporting a business, you're supporting families of the people who own it and families of the people who work there. So go support small business. That's my thing for the end of the day. So hey, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Check the mixtape below if you're watching this on allaboutyourbenjamins.com. If you're watching on YouTube, head over to allaboutyourbenjamins.com to see the supporting articles along with the mixtape. And we'll see you all in the next episode.